CardGamesTV1 Podcast. Yugioh has a new set, so to speak, a new product, and it's a two-player product, and it's supposed to be a tutorial product, right? It's a product to teach people how to play the game, and it's like, okay, I don't think it should have been a actual physical product. It would have been better if they did like some type of app or something that you can use to learn how to play the game, right? Because the funny thing is like starter decks are supposed to get you started, supposed to teach you the basics of the game because the rules of the games are in there. The basics of the game, you need to know what a flip summon is, what a flip effect is, even if you'd never flip summon or even use the flip effect monsters. You still should know what those are, just like fusions, synchros, ritual monsters, and the list goes on. You should know every aspect of the game. Because I noticed a lot of times they'll have a starter deck where the rule books tell you about synchro summoning, but the starter deck doesn't have synchros. But they tell you about the summoning mechanics, but the deck doesn't come with it. When it should, right? And that's why it's nice. I like the two-player set concept because it's how starter decks should be. It should be two decks. One deck that shows you how to play one type of, not one, but couple mechanics, like let's say link monsters, so link summoning, exceed summoning, right, and let's say synchro summoning. Those three mechanics in that one deck. The other deck is where you'll learn how to play pendulums, fusions, and rituals, right, as example. So you split up those six special summoning mechanics and separate them into two decks, right, and go from there. And then that way you can, and then the idea is, the best way to learn is to play against another person, not by yourself. So that's why, like, a single player starter deck, it's like, well, I had to read the books to learn the basics of the game, and then I had to go find a person to play. And since a starter deck is just one deck, it's not two decks, you have to go play somebody. But when you go find somebody to play, especially you go to locals or something with your starter deck, their decks are going to be, way above your starter deck's level. So it'll be hard for you to learn the game when they set up 5 negates and you can't even play a single one of your cards. You need something at your deck's level, to be able to learn and play the game, right? You guys, that's the whole point. You got to start at a beginner level. So the two-player set is way starter decks should be. That they should be like clash decks, right? There should be dual decks, just like in Magic, where you have two decks that can be used and played against each other. And then let's say the Link deck, the deck that has Link Monster Synchros and Exceeds. Let's say it has Ash Blossom, and then the other deck has what's that card? Pot of Desires. That way you can learn how to Ash Pot of Desires. Right? So you know what Ash does. You know what Pot of Desires does, right? And then you can use Ash too. That way you can learn the ruling of how Ash works against Pot of Desires, where they still have to banish the 10 cards, and then you stop them from drawing 2 cards. Right? Just like if you had a graveyard deck, like a zombie graveyard deck, the other deck should have DD Crow to help get rid of a monster from the graveyard, especially if there's a monster that recurs from the graveyard, that kind of stuff. So that's the way you would do it, to teach how to play, to teach, like, okay, there's things that can happen, right, and there's things you can do, like, for example, putting summon limit in one of the decks. That way it's like, oh, if I use this card, it makes it hard for you to summon a lot, which means it makes it hard for you to play your big cards and the stuff that have a problem. That way, because the idea is you're supposed to teach critical thinking and problem solving, right? Later on, they'll learn about side decking, but first and foremost, they gotta learn about main decking. They gotta learn about what cards you could put in your deck that will help you in general, because you're supposed to teach general way of playing the game, right? So that's why you would have stuff like Regeki, MST, Twin Twister, stuff like that, Harpies even. And that's the thing, because they unban certain cards like Harpies and Regeki, I expect these two-player decks, these starter decks, to have those cards, common versions of those cards, so people can play them and learn how Harpies works. Snatch Steal got unbanned, so I expect to see Snatch Steal in these two-player, decks. So I like the idea of two-player decks to teach, to learn, but it'd be a good idea to take like some of the most popular that's already been reprinted multiple times. I'm not saying I don't know what new meta card. Bonfire. Yeah, there you go. People have been complaining about Bonfire. I don't expect a common copy of Bonfire in any of these two-player decks anytime soon. But, right, especially not in this set. But you get the idea. There's like, it'll be something like that, like down the line, maybe a year from now, these two-player decks could have the Bonfire card in there, right? So people can play, practice and stuff. And they should already, old players should already know how Bonfire works. Because a lot of times, the way you learn how to play is you typically don't want to. Sometimes, you and your friend for the first time start playing, and y'all get the two-player deck to start playing and start learning the game together. And y'all both start off as noobs, right? As the same level. But a lot of times, most people, they tend to get into the game because somebody else already plays it, and they want to play. So then they want to get something so they can play. So they want to go buy a deck to start with, so they can start playing the game with their friends who already been playing the games for a while. So that's why structure decks are really good for that. See, starter decks is just like if you want to start at the beginning. Structure decks are great if you want to jump into the middle, right? If you want to go from noob, right, and go into a novice. No, that's the wrong word. What is the intermediate, right? Before you go to expert. Expert is like you already been playing the game for a long time and you played meta or something, right? That kind of mindset. So then you go from you based off of your skill level. If you're new to the game, you do want to start off with the basics before you move on to more advanced and harder stuff. All right, you don't want to start off with a structure deck that has all these different summoning mechanics, and you're trying to learn them all. You're trying to learn Ritual and Link and Pendulum, Exceed. You have one of every one of these cards into one deck, trying to teach you all this stuff at once. YouTube videos exist. People can go online and learn these different summoning mechanics. These different ways of doing things. What you need is a basic rundown. Like, all right, we need you to learn normal summon, special summoning. Then we need you to learn the Link mechanics. Because Pendulum is not too difficult to understand. It just you gotta try them out later. But since pendulums are not really used as much as Link summoning, Synchro summoning, and Exceed summoning is, that's why those three mechanics put into a deck, so you can learn them all together, because they all do synergize pretty well. You would Link so you can get open spaces, right? So that way you can bring out fusions and stuff into those zones that they're being pointed at, right? Or I meant to say like Synchros and Exceeds, and try to get some effects off of your Link monsters if they have effects. But the fact that you can Exceed summoning, like the same material, like a level 4 tuner and a level 4 non-tuner can sync into a 8-star, or you can overlay them and make an Exceed. That's why having both those mechanics come in handy. And the fact that you can have a Link 2 take both the monsters. So the same two monsters can summon 3 different types: Link, Exceed, Synchro. And you want to teach them that. You want to simplify it and be like, yeah, these 2 monsters can summon these 3 monsters from your extra deck. Right? Just because you have both of them on the field, you have options to these 3. And teach them that, right? That's how you learn Link, Synchro, and Exceed. Because they all go together, right? things that are conditional, things that you gotta set things up for it to play right, is pendulum summon, ritual summoning, fusion summoning. Those three things should be together because those are much more complicated because of those are extra steps. You can't just use just any 2 cards and synchro, exceed, and link summon. You got to use specific cards to ritual summon, to fusion summon. So mainly those are spell based, and pendulum are monsters that are treated as spells. So that's why you put them together. So you have 2 separate decks that have those types of mechanics, so you can teach them because they're synergistic. One of the ways that I memorize things or learn how to do stuff is that I compare it to something else. Since I played Magic before I started Yu-Gi-Oh, but Yu-Gi-Oh was the reason the Yu-Gi-Oh anime anyway, was the reason I was like, I want to play card games, just like they do in the anime. I wonder if they have, actual decks, that we could play the Yu-Gi-Oh game. They didn't have them yet, but Magic already existed. So my friend had Magic, so I learned how to play Magic until the Yu-Gi-Oh, starter decks started coming out. So I had the Dark Magician starter deck, right? But anyway, so a lot of what I learned from Magic, I was able to transfer it over to Yu-Gi-Oh, So I understood the idea of what a monster is, right? What a spell is, what a trap is, right? How to do stuff like that. And then of course, play Yu-Gi-Oh, learn the rules, and start learning how tribute summon works, flip summon, normal summon, all that stuff. And then over time, start learning new stuff. Cause I've taught people how to play, and I have a friend that taught people how to play. The thing is, our methods are different. He tends to be more complicated because he tries to teach them everything. He tries to teach them everything. He tries to teach them the most updated stuff along with the basics. So he goes straight from normal summoning straight up to like synchro summoning, if at that time, or pendulum summon if it's the new thing. He'll try to teach you everything all at once, and he'll just go back to back like you normal summon. Then you can special summon. See, now you can link summon or exceed summon, or you can do this, or you could do that, or you could synchro, or you could pendulum, or you do this, and he just goes on and on trying to tell you everything all in one shot, instead of just start off with normal summon, setting traps. You set them. Normal spell cards, you could just play them straight out. Quick play spell cards, you can play them from your hand during your turn, but if you set them, you can't flip them over and play them. You have to wait until your opponent's turn to play them. But that's the best time to play them, is usually on your opponent's turn because they're a quick play. They act just like traps, but they're spells. There's a difference. And then show them about continuous spells, traps, counter traps, right? What a normal trap is, what a normal spell is, what a continuous spell is, equip card, a field card, and the list goes on, right? But you want to show them the basics, like especially if they already have a deck, you want to use their deck. Like if they bought a starter deck or structure deck, you want to show them what those cards are for. It's like, this is a flip effect monster. This is what you do with it, right? You break it down because you want them to understand. And it's always good to have a deck to show them how to, play the game. So if you, a lot of times we will have decks that are simple and easy, straightforward to play. Like let's say I have like a kaiju deck or something. It's pretty simple. I just kaiju things. I used to play kaiju Grados. I play kaiju Time Lord now. I used to play kaiju Grados, so it's like, all right, give your opponent, tribute one of your opponent's monster, give them a kaiju. Summon a Grado, attack, take some damage. That's okay, because now you can steal their kaiju by equipping the Grado to it, and then now you can attack them for more damage than you took. Obviously, I want like a field card, a continuous spell card, some type of continuous, preferably spell, or even monster effect that makes it where, oh yeah, I could do that. But anyway, the point is that will make it where I don't take damage. Because it'd be nice not to take damage from attacking. Because these monsters tend to be big. They have over 3,000 attack. Most of these monsters have 15 or less attack, the Grados, so I would end up taking like 1,500 plus per attack, and that's not a good idea. Because in 3 turns, that's 4,500 damage, right? Doing that, so ideally, I don't want to take damage when I do that combo. But I don't play that now. I do Kaiju Time Lord, so I give you a Kaiju, summon a Time Lord, and attack with a Time Lord. And you take damage, so I've upgraded from the Greatest Kaiju Time Lord. But you get my point. It's like progression. You gotta show them step by step. Like, learn how to do this first. Normal summon. Set traps. Learn how to, activate the traps. How to use the traps to interrupt your opponent's plays to make it hard for them to play the game and go from there. But a lot of people always want to complicate things and be like, oh, I gotta show you the new summoning mechanics. I gotta show you how to do this combo. It's like, no. You need to show them the basics first. Show them the basics. Normal summon, set. They need to know those things because those are actual aspects of the game. There's people who literally, when they play, as soon as they don't have their the wombo combo, they'll be like, all right, I lose. And quit right there and then. They don't even consider all right, let me set this monster face down. Let me set this spell card to make it look like it's a trap. So that way I could try to defend and try to stall long enough until I get my combo. No, they're just like, oh, I don't have the combo, I lose. And then that's like, but the game just started. I don't even have an OTK, so it's not like you're going to instantly lose right now. Even I don't have a wombo combo. I could literally not be playing some elaborate 1 or 2 card combo, yet my opponent will quit just because they didn't draw their combo. So automatically for them, they lost the game, even though it's like, well, the game, you haven't actually lost the game. There's no guarantee that you're going to lose the game just because you didn't draw your specific cards. You should be able to play the game even without your combo. And that's the problem. When people rely on a combo so much that they don't even know how to play the game without it. That's the real problem. The irony is that a lot of players who play right now, who think they're really good and the meta this and that, and they think they're really good at the game, really are not good at the game because they don't know the basics of the game, which is why they don't typically do a good job teaching anyone how to play the game, and they make the game more complicated than it is. That's the thing. The game is not complicated. The basic rules of the game is not complicated. We as players make the game more complicated by trying to add layers like, link, chain blocking. Yeah, we created that concept. That's not actually a normal part of the game. Now, when the game started, it's not a normal part of the game to chain block. You play something, your opponent has the opportunity to respond. There is no, these two effects activate at the same time, so I use this one and this one in this order to prevent you from stopping this one if you did have a response. Like, that was very rare for there to be, for chain blocking to exist. We just created it over time. Just like there wasn't always hand traps. The first hand trap is Kriebel. Most people don't even know that. The first hand trap was Kriebel. It wasn't no Veiler or anything. It was Kriebel. And then on top of that, and that came in a starter deck. The Yugioh Evolution starter deck gave you Kriebel and Megamorph, if I'm right. Which was awesome, right? 2 very powerful cards. A card that doubles your attack so you can OTK with, and then a hand trap. They can prevent you from getting OTK'd. Those are really good starter decks. Those are the types of decks that I wish they still print, or at least, still print to make available so people could get them and learn, because those were actually the best decks to start learning the game from, and they're good enough that you can learn the game and do good. And those decks are good. They have good cards, right? They don't have to have a whole lot of hand traps. Kriebel is enough to teach you what a hand trap can do. Then from there, you can learn about Veiler and all the other hand traps and Ash Blossom stuff. Now, since we're in modern day times, I'm not against the idea of creating, new starter decks, new decks with cards, that, are popular. Like, yes, Ash Blossom, for example, should be in the 2-player game deck. Decks. So one of the decks should have Ash, the other deck should have let's say Veiler or Impermanence, so that way they can learn how a trap version of Veiler works, right? So it's learn how to use a trap. So there's a trap you can play from your hand. So it's nothing wrong with adding some of these advanced ideas into a starter deck because it will help them learn faster. They'll remember I remember had a card like that. It was a trap that I could play from my hand like it was a spell card. And that would be the impermanence, right? So they at least would know what that is. They know what a hand trap is because of Ash, and so forth. It's like you just need to put a couple little things here and there that will teach them some of this stuff. You don't want to make it complicated and try to have them, try to synchro summon, try to make access code talker, or try to make Baroness the floor or something like that. Like, don't try to get them to summon Quasar Dragon, right? Like, let's not over exaggerate what they should be doing. And definitely no strategy where it'll be like you start off with 1 or 2 cards and suddenly you're playing with like 15 cards. It's like, no, that's already the bullshit that we have to deal with in the regular game. We don't need to teach new players to do that same thing, that their turn is supposed to take an hour to conclude, to finish. So I disagree with that bullshit. So what else? The deck, the 2-player deck is not a bad idea. I do agree that it's kind of sad that they just throw like random junk. They don't even throw in updated junk. Like, they'll throw some old normal monsters. Like, damn, if you're gonna put normal monsters, at least put some newer updated ones. That way people, yes, know what a normal monster is, but at least it's from updated, because a lot of people don't use a lot of the old normal monsters. Like, I shouldn't be seeing a elf. What's her name? Mystical elf. I shouldn't be seeing a mystical elf normal monster in a new starter deck or 2-player deck. I should be seeing a different normal monster. Especially if there are normal monsters in the game, right, that recently came out in recent sets. You should be using some of that. Because the funny thing about these 2-player starter decks, game deck product, is that largely it's just a lot of bulk, right? A lot of draft shaft, as they say. So it's like, that's the way it should be. And they definitely should come with booster packs. I don't know what's in the set, in this product, but definitely should be some booster packs, recent set booster pack, to help get them, the people whoever is buying this product, to get them started into this. And this is definitely a great product if they made it a little bit better. I agree that it's not too great, because it's not something you would want to buy and give it to somebody as a gift. Like, oh, let me give my nephews this as a gift so they both can play and learn this game and have fun and get along because of this product. It'd be nice if it did have nicer cards in it, for them to play and enjoy and build memories, right? And then just get the experience. Just that way they can know what I know. And then one day when they be like, oh, I want to play you. Oh, you want to play against me? All right, cool. All right, play my Pot of Desires. I play Ash. You got that. You know what that card does. That's good to know. And that works, right? That way, the game will be a little bit fair. Because the better they understand the game, that's the important part. The better they understand the game, the better choices they can make. They can understand what's considered a good card, what's considered a bad card, like what's playable, what's not playable, based off of their little experience with having a set that does have a lot of good cards, with a couple not so great, but they're still good. Like, they're good, they're just not like, Bonfire, good. Like, some people think Bonfire is good. I don't think Bonfire is good. I don't care for that card, but there's a lot of people out there that do care for it, and that's why it's an expensive card. So, so something like that in the set would be, useful. Would be decent. Kids, new players would be able to enjoy and understand. To me, definitely stuff like Reinforcing the Army definitely should be in these types of decks to teach people search, because that's like one of the first search cards, one of the first cards that teach you the idea of searching. Obviously, stuff like Monster Reborn, so you can learn how to summon monsters from either player's graveyard, not just your own. So if you use a kaiju to get rid of your opponent's monster, then you can Monster Reborn it and then learn that strategy. And that's the thing, is learning combos and strategies of just how to use certain cards. Using certain cards together can give you certain outcomes. You know, Kaiju Monster Reborn, Dark Hole Monster Reborn, right? I attack your monster with my monster and kill it. Main phase 2, Monster Reborn, right? They'll learn that stuff because they at least have the cards to play out those lines of play. And that's the thing, it's supposed to teach lines of play. And I expect these things to even have tips, like teach you how to, you know, destroy your opponent's monster by battle, and then after battle, use Monster Reborn to bring it back to your side of the field so you can have it for next turn. That we can attack them with 2 monsters. Like, it's supposed to say stuff like that. I expect stuff like that in the product, you know, tips and stuff and strategy guides, and actually teach how to be good at the game, not necessarily how to be meta, top tier, this, that, third, you know, competitive. 'Cause that's the thing. This is not a competitive product, and I hate the people who play competitively, right? Who think competitively, complaining that this is not a competitive deck. This is not the best deck, the best product to teach somebody how to play the game, because it's set up in such a way that it's not how people who already play the game, and they're like, oh, I don't like this is terrible, I wouldn't want to learn how to play the game this way. Well, most of y'all did learn how to play the game that way. There are a lot of y'all who didn't. A lot of y'all just watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos and learned the basics that way. Then y'all went and got Edo Pro or Dueling Book, or you went and got Duel Masters or Duel Links or something like that, and then y'all learn that way. Which is good that we have those things for y'all to learn, because those are definitely way better tools for learning, especially as a beginner. That's the kind of stuff I would recommend. I would be like, hey, download, Duel Masters or Edo Pro, right? Download either one of those, and then I'll teach you, how to build a deck, the basics, how to build a basic, straightforward, simple deck to play, and then go from there. And the thing I always want to do is I want to teach people anti-meta. The problem is most people try to teach meta. Like, I got to teach you the meta. I got to teach you about hand traps and side deck and this and that. Y'all always trying to teach how to play competitively, not how to play basically, right? The basic level of the game. Because I'm always trying to teach people the basics. That's what you do, is you teach them the basics. You teach them their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. You don't go straight into calculus. You don't talk about quantum physics with somebody. You teach them the basics. Just like when you have a child, you teach them their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s first before you start telling them about the government is lying to us and aliens are real and all this nonsense, right? Like they don't need to know that shit yet. What they need to know is their ABCs and their 1, 2, 3s. Simple.